Well, to make sure you don't forget us with our motto, we have included a little mousepad in the goodie bags for participants. A very warm welcome from me also to our presentation. We give your data a face. My name is Dietmar Klaus. This is my colleague, Boris Cizek, and we're a full-service agency, come from Kassel, and have been around for roughly 20 years. And infer our activities from our agency name partly. We have 1M and 2Ps, and they stand for the things we do. When you actually establish an agency, then you of course want to come up with a catchy name, and we thought of marketing processes and production, so 1M, 2Ps. Today we will focus on the first two components of our agency name. I will actually kick off with the processes part. This is a topic that is probably not so normal to find at a marketing agency, but this has to do with the fact that I have looked at data and process optimization for the past 25 years. And this has really rubbed off on us. We're 15 employees, we have 3 consultants, we have our creative director, Boris, then 1 art director, 6 graphic designers and production people, 1 distributor and 2 back office people. And our creative and art directors only start working if the products we are to promote need to be well known, and if we want to know about the benefit they have for our customers. And this is particularly true for our graphic artists that have a certain data affinity and are not afraid of looking into an Excel spreadsheet or a database to see how to implement or retrieve data. So much by way of introduction. We are allowed to work for a whole series of high-quality, long-standing customers from the B2B segment. This is very often highly technical brands, lots of SMEs, but strong brands. And it's so much fun for really digging deep into topics and always trying to actually work out the customer benefit in the truest sense of the word. Over the past 2 days, we've heard a lot about PIM, PMX, and AI and the user experience. This is, of course, tuned to the user, who's really center stage and who should receive relevant content. But what these content should look like in terms of design, we've probably heard something in passing now and then, but not a lot. And this is why we want to fill this gap by also speaking about the design of publications that are data-driven. In our work, this is what we focus on. Of course, always considering our customers' corporate design and considering the corporate design of our customers, and to use it for our database publishing processes. Well, let me come to the first case. And this is the Winkhaus company. This is a vendor of window and fitting technologies. There we executed a project where we are listed on the extreme right, and the brief was to visualize facet catalogs. We are part of a project group that is composed of the project leader and consultant Extensio Werk 2 as a template developer, and also as a consultant, and last but not least, we as a company that actually analyzes the data situation and tries to ensure an excellent realization of the content. What was the reason for Winkhaus to think about facet catalogs? there was a PIM system, and I actually heard this several times over the past 2 days, but the PIM system was actually built based on the requirements of the catalog. So they built a PIM world the way you would like to have PIM products. And you were able to capture everything the way you wanted it to. But then, in addition to SAP and ERP, SAP Hybris was added and introduced. And at this point, it became necessary to think about publishing in future. And at this point, we actually joined the fray because it is decisive for the customer to say, well, that's all nice and fine. I want to think about facets and data, but how does this look like on a piece of paper in a PDF file? What will my data look like at the end of the day? And this is when we come in as a project teamster and try to present an answer. So we dealt with the customer and his product areas. And this is, of course, a topic for a creative agency to really do a deep dive into the product structure of the customer. We kicked off with door fittings and actually selected the turn tilt fittings, and then really entered or immersed ourselves rather into the data world. The customer has installed a partner portal for its market partners, and we use this partner portal for our work. This is a screenshot. Typically on the left-hand side, the filter options in a product hierarchy, which leads to the fact that I can select products. And then as an agency, we, of course, retrieve this data by exporting them classically as a chart, which we then analyze at the agency. At this point, it is important for us to find exemplary product groups that are of relevance to our customers for selling, but which also provide a good basis for us as an agency to do some design. So relatively simple structures, and at the end also an article world that actually works for our mock-ups. And this was the case here. In the area of fitting technology, we found an attribute called backset, and then 38 articles were left. We reconciled this with the customer and said, okay, with this area, we could work. The customer's catalog was designed like this, a very nice, tidy look, but all focused on the article. And this was also reflected by the previous PIM. And in our analysis, the point was to say, where do I detect different areas that I can then mirror in my mock-ups? Highlighted in green is basically the header, the footer area, the margin area, usually used for navigation purposes, whereas the center space is the one where the product's order number are featured. And this is our work to analyze this and then come up with an idea of how we would approach such a design. Let's embark on a journey. The first approach, the facets we detected were shown in a first draft on paper. The attribute of backset was displayed in a dark gray, where the different backset dimensions are shown. A subset of information was created and other information was included in the blue bar. So this was the first initial draft. That's a quick win, so to speak. Then you present it to the customer, whether this is what they're looking at. Then you actually take it to the next level, where we included different blue shades to improve the product hierarchy. Then we discovered that there was enough space for article production, and this is why we said there could be additional content be featured at the bottom right for buyers. But then at this point we're faced with the challenge that there was no navigation level. The icons, we didn't like them too much, and the layout, there was really room for improvement. Then we first dealt with the products and the drawings themselves. This is drive rods. There are no photos. They're just vector graphs. And as a first step, we arranged them with the groups of backsets and said, not really great. Another version would have been to include the line drawings in the product table. But this was not really too manageable, and this is why at the end of the day we ended up with this mock-up, which really appealed to the decision makers at the Winkhaus company. So the drawings were placed below the groups of backset dimensions, and many other elements were also integrated, as highlighted here, in order to be able to show the filters, the facets. There is a navigation level in the header, the chapter of the name, the subchapter. We then decided to place two info boxes which are filled by the level of the article group. This is the dark blue area. So there are 3 to 4 groups displayed here that reflect the filtering, and this was prominently featured in dark blue. And there's also a QR code with call to action and saying you can also look at the printed catalog and jump to the article groups. Then shared properties were taken over in a bullet point table. Differing properties were taken over, which helped to put together the order number. So gradually we built the pages for the icons, for the materials wood, aluminium. We simply opted for simple icons with AL as an abbreviation for aluminium, for instance, in order to make the page look tidier. This is a mock-up, and this is why the tables are not completely filled. This is not our task. Our task is to just show the graphic layout possibility with the 38 articles. Then there's a to be continued page, because there are article groups with many order numbers. On the left hand side you can see the to be continued page. So we start with the header, and on the right hand side you can see the change over from a constant to a variable layout, and this is then actually highlighted by the dark blue color. So this is the work we execute to structure and hierarchize or put data in a hierarchy so well that the customer really easily finds the products. Customers, of course, do not only want to have this for one product, they want to have it for more products. Here, this was the design, the old design, and this is the new design, and we checked whether this also worked for the deflection, the corner deflections. So we did this with corner bearings, and then the product manager said, "Oh, well, the safety door lock, I would like to see how my data look like with your design." And then we, of course, share our insights. This was the first case we briefly want to show. And it shows how we use the data customers supply to actually make proposals to improve the design. Well, good afternoon. Thanks very much for showing up in such high numbers. In graphic art, in creation, the creative part of the agency, you're basically in a world that is almost completely opposite of the data world. The world of data is composed of ones and zeros, a very concrete thing. There is not a lot to interpret. 2 plus 2 is exactly 4. For a graphic designer, this is always a little different. 2 plus 2 equals 4 looks like this. Well, roughly 2 plus probably another 2. When you combine the 2 might equal 4. This is the graphic designer's world. So the way of thinking is more of an analog way of thinking, and in daily practice you always have to try and reconcile these two worlds as harmoniously as possible. On the other hand, in my work on these automated exports, it came to my mind how much trivialities impact reality. BIM system is also a triviality, only consisting of 1 or 0, but when you talk about functionalities, it's a complex system. So to set the scene, let me actually do a little test with you. Well, that's enough. Well, please give me a show of hand. Who thought something like, in view of this image, along the lines, that's a cool outfit? 2, 3, yeah, at least a few people. Who thought, looking at this image, this is a nice vintage car? Quite a few. And who thought, this is definitely not her car? After all, a few people, but this is exactly the point. Whatever we have in front of us, whatever we look at, we always place it in a context, and we always try to categorize it in one way or the other. Maybe it's her dad's or her sister's car, but the two are featured in the same picture, and this is why we try to establish a relation between the two. Let's go one step further. This is also a nice picture, but nice, yummy, but maybe a little lonely. Well, this is also nice, but sooner or later the two will struggle and haggle about the croissant. So let's add another croissant, a second croissant. But who or which croissant belongs to whom? And how do we clarify this? Well, this somehow helps us. So this is how what you're faced with every day in catalog design. This is the challenge. It's not so much a revolutionary job. It is rather a categorizing job. And this takes us to the next case. This is the Ingun company. They are market leaders for contact pins, test adapters, and add-on assemblies. Whoever has had a PCB board, a circuit board in their hands knows that everything is being tested. So this is a giant industry, and this is why a huge amount of contact pins exist. Back in 2023, we were faced with a twofold task. On the one hand, the old design, the old catalog layout, was to be revised based on the new CI, the corporate identity, and to develop this new catalog layout. What follows now is a highly detailed listing of development steps, but it will probably remind one or two in the room of some of your own projects. So these are our contact pins, quite gamut. This is the GKS 100, if I'm not wrong. Well, I should put on my glasses so I can really read it. So transfer it to a new layout. And this would look like this. So much for that. Then we looked at it. If I remember correctly, we had a data structure that was okay. But this is what, according to the data structure, ends up on the page. We took a closer look and immediately realized there are redundancies. And they were eliminated as a first step. Information that I only need once only has to be featured once, logically. Then we tried to rearrange the content to gain space for one-to-one scale representations, because some of these contact pins can be pretty big. So this was the next development step. Then we started looking at the reading structure, because I have lots of correct data, and lots of correct data ends up on the double page, and the double page is clogged up with things that I need to structure so that the eye can actually solve this almost impossible task. So we introduced some gray spaces, then took a slightly more aggressive approach by introducing a secondary color in line with the CI. On the bottom right, you can see the green bar. This is going to be more important, because this is the way Ingu customers can compile their own order numbers. Well, and this brings us back to the realm of the imponderable. How do you generate some sort of depth on such a page? How do you try to simulate a front and back to actually improve the spatial appeal of such a page? And then you come up with the idea of just cutting off a corner. This worked pretty well in this context. Here again, the element hierarchy. So it all ends up with the order number, and this is how slowly but surely a typology of catalog emerges. Then next step of experimentation, what happens if we add more gray and if we add more structure, if the individual heads of the contact pins are staged separately against a background? What we see here is an evaluation, an additional evaluation level. It was just a study. Then what about the downward scalability? If we only have few data, how does this fit one page? What is the upward scalability if there's more information to cover? I have a huge table, and then I add a third page, and at the bottom of the page I have a space left. This is what we propose to be used for your own advertising, which can also be automated. So this is still 2023. Then we continued working on contrasts. And it's like in the Herzu magazine, but you probably remember the two images that you had to compare to find the differences. And this will happen now. See? The contrast. You see the difference? So the tables and the info boxes were aligned. See the difference? This can bring 2 hours of discussion. Yeah, it happens. That's the way it is. But all in all, this is well invested time because all parties involved get a feel for the work that is involved. Then we continued testing colors, and we also looked after the footer. What exactly is featured there and how? And then we also looked at the integration of leading icons without having been provided with these icons by the customer. The customer just said, yeah, there will be some sent. On icons, let me say one thing. I always refer to this as the iconization of the world. I'm always cautious to include too many icons because what they are supposed to do, and that is guide, they no longer do if there are too many of those. I can no longer decipher them, and then these icons only perform the task of dispersing a page with too much text, which often happens with automatic output. And the second cut-off edge was eliminated because sooner or later we realized we no longer need it. I have a clear guidance. Top left, I start with the product, and on the right-hand side, the name is quoted again, so this will work. Then we try to place the icons here and there, and then for reasons I no longer remember, we focused on the order number again. And we finally, at the end of the day, had to adapt the type area to a possible register on the side, an index line. 2024, we continued our work. And from the sales department, there was the requirement to have a call to action QR code. We provided this in various versions, and I don't want to dwell on this for too long. And another task was to make the order process more visible. We have the 2 interim headings featured, but they wanted to have a more didactic functionality of these headings. And as a first step, we just added index numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, so on and so forth. Then we actually followed with the table heads. They were also given the exact numbers to know what is really of relevance for the order number for customers who want to order. Then we actually activated the order code by highlighting the numbers and at the bottom reflecting these highlights. Here again in another version, and in this version, and finally in a very, very clear version. And this was then the final page layout based on the original data we received for this page. DKS 100, the spring-loaded contact pin, 3 pages are necessary, 2.5, to really properly present the product. And this is the very painstaking, at times a little fiddly layout or work that tries to bridge the gap to the PIM. And it provides you with lots of insights when you're successful. And with a grateful customer, this is just a great thing. I lost sight of time. It's 10 minutes? 7. Well, just speak faster. Well, you said I should speak slowly. Just one case that was already mentioned in Christian Brull's presentation of B.Braun. This is a subsidiary company called Escolab AG. And they do medical device technology. And this is a project that I have been busy with over the past 4 years. And I'm going to go through this development very fast. If you could please give me... Yeah, I can also hold it for you. So this was generated in 2008, was printed in a very high run. This is the dimension basically we were given, or the scale. It was already generated in an automated fashion, but still involving a lot of manual revision. So classically the products were placed on the pages, then they were shifted in Quark Express back then, and then the problem was that they ran out of the printed edition, and they had to do something. But then they said product scope is PDFs, but we won't print it. And the PDFs were to be exported 100% automated, but 80% of the product page is fully automatic. Then they said the gap is 20% automatic output, but maybe some manual revision. The project, we do this project again together with Werk 2 for the customer, and I'll simply speed up a little. The catalog has well, it was designed originally in 2005, 2006, and it took roughly 2 years to build the product pages. And this corresponded to the former corporate design of the Escolab company that belonged to B.Braun, but was still quite independent back then. Our task was to redesign the catalog in line with the corporate design of the parent company. And together with Werk 2, we actually started analyzing data and developing the templates, and actually created layouts for the sample documents. At first sight, this looks, of course, more sober than you've seen it before. Well, it's corporate requirement. It's a group of companies, and gradually we looked at all of the individual pages. This is an old page where the graphic designer had a whole left page to show the instrument in a one-to-one scale, which is of decisive importance for surgeons to see the right size for the instruments they will handle later. And this is why to the left and to the right there is this scale shown in centimeters and in inches, so surgeons could see the instruments, and also the versions of the 25 or 27 tips available were also shown on the right hand side. This is a fantastic option. We automated this, we automated the output now, and as a result we created subgroups, and the instruments are now only shown in a 1:2 scale. So this is the tribute you actually have to pay to the automation. Nevertheless, we made sure to have better information for customers. Shared properties of instruments were included in bullet points next to the instruments. And this was not the case in the past. This information was simply not available. So also positive aspects as a result of this implementation. For other pages, additional content could be placed. Top left, this is an information accompanying the products that are very relevant for the users. What you also see here on the left-hand side, you can see the tips of the scissors. They're all actually screwed together with a screw, and they're all at the same height. But this was only possible because they were placed manually. The original images couldn't be used, of course. They're all actually ending at the bottom, but of course the original images are longer. So for the user, this is an optimal view, but when we saw how the images are supplied, we said it is not possible for us to actually show the screws in one line, because at the bottom there was not enough space. So we said we'll cut them. And this actually creates a very nice, tidy graphic layout, but users, of course, have to actually combine the length of the tip looking at the product data. But it also shows how we dealt with the graphic design. We even decided here to bleed with one instrument. For us, is doing this automatically is of course not possible. So they followed the principle to show the instrument at a 1:2 scale, making sure that all of the products are displayed nevertheless. And shared properties were included in the tables as an add-on content. And we also have pivot tables. Also a nice example. You do not just combine InDesign frames. This was done manually by the graphic designer. Such a page would look differently, of course, with us, whatever technology can provide. But the representation is nice nevertheless. And for the second stage of the project, we've been able to create the free space that can be filled with additional content. I said that as an agency, we cooperated in developing the set of graphic rules. We tried to show the products as well as possible. Those dealing with database publishing will know that this was a Sisyphus work to create the 1600 pages. In the miniature pages, you can already see the template work done by Werk 2 and the graphical translation we added as an agency so that the developers of the templates knew exactly where the features need to be displayed. We created a set of templates with its own nomenclature, and this has worked ever so well. I initially said the product scope was no pressure and only 80% automatic output. But the project team then partly revised this, and they said 100% output. And by grouping and data management and whatever you can do on the data side of the 1600 product pages, there is no more manual work involved. In 2023, for the first time, we were able to export the first product groups, and it was to be suitable for print on demand. So at a meeting, we actually created a mock-up for a personal print-on-demand copy. This is what we could do. Just imagine a chief surgeon actually compiles product, we get the data information, and we produce a customized catalog with his the photo of his clinic on the cover page, and in page 3 his representative, and maybe in the centerfold some additional proposals for instruments that might come in handy. So the classical print on demand, and this is easily feasible. It was quite surprising in the marketing meeting in 2024 this year was the desire to print the catalog, because the print edition, they were running out of that, and until the day before yesterday, on the 16th of September, we actually output the catalog as a PDF with the 1600 pages. And in show pads, they can also display this, because the distributors, the sales guys, actually have iPads. And we've split this catalog up into 2 volumes. And it was printed in German and English in a print run of 3,500 copies. And being fond of print, this is a good result for me. Where do we go from here? We want to produce more languages. This is easy to do. We want to offer added value. We want to use and leverage the white spaces we've created. And we want to also personalize editions for specific fields of application or therapy. And we want to use the print suite to put into practice what Horst in his next presentation wants to show. And at this point, thank you very much for your attention. Oh yeah, we're running late. Yes, a little. Well, that's okay. Well, for me, again, thanks very much for your presentation. There's time for 1 or 2 questions, if there are any. Yes, I would like to know how many templates were developed for this catalog. 8. Okay. Is this a lot for you, or is it? Well, I found this very surprising that it is so few templates. Yeah, because there is a very nice set of rules underlying. Each template comes with a set of rules where the data stream is analyzed and various substructures are created and tables are built accordingly. And we pre-calculate how much space is needed to be able to change over a small number of templates, but there's a great set of rules underlying it. Yes, I'll come with the mic. How expensive is each individual catalog? 22 euros 86. Well, thank you. Okay, looking at the clock, I would like to leave it at that. Thanks very much again.